Good morning, and thanks so much for tuning in for the second edition of this crazy idea. My name is Joe Byer, and I'm the outgoing executive director of Michigan Legacy Art Park, a 30-acre outdoor art, nature, and history experience located at Crystal Mountain Resort in Benzie County. The art park is part of the Sleeping Bear Birding Trail and has recorded over 25 migratory species. When we created this program last year, we intended to meet in person and hike to birdwatch, stop and read literature along the way, and look at the sculptures. Our plans were canceled by the pandemic, but our stubborn little team took the idea online instead, and Birds and Words was born, and has reached many more people than we ever imagined. It's been such a difficult year for all of us, but especially for arts and culture organizations, who've lost almost all connection with their audiences and the people they serve. That's why I'm so happy that Michigan Legacy Art Park has been able to partner with our friends at Hearsay Storytelling, the National Writers Series, Interlochen Public Radio, and the Boardman Review to curate and create this show. And I'm deeply grateful to the contributors who all volunteered their time. Over the quarantine, many of us would have felt even more isolated and alone had it not been for the birds in our northern Michigan yards and skies, who've kept us connected to the giant world around us that we've been shut off from for so long. This tiny celebration is for them. In the spring that is suddenly surrounding us, we see the power and resilience of nature and a new sense of hope. And for those of us here in northern Michigan, the profundity of this change can't be underestimated. And to understand it, you must start with what came before. Here's Chris Loud with an essay from the Boardman Review.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Loud, and I'm co-founder of the Boardman Review along with my brother, Nick. Nick got to do this last year, and I was super jealous, so I wanted to give it a shot this year. I'm going to be reading actually from our last issue that came out in the winter of 2020, and it's called The Christmas Bird Count, and I'll show you real quick. It's by a writer named Allison Vlog. And she is a Traverse City resident, but she works with the Whitefish Point Bird Observatory in the Upper Peninsula. And she travels around studying water bird migrations. And she wrote this great piece about the Christmas bird count in Benzie County. So I thought it was pretty appropriate for the event. So I'm going to give it a read. It's just a selection. We're on the cusp of a day dedicated to the census of winter bird populations, the Christmas bird count. This is an expansive citizen science effort, one that has persisted for more than a century and is the longest running census of Earth's fauna. The Benzie count, established in 1961, is just one of 2,600 CBCs conducted annually. Counts are done in 15-mile diameter circles, which remain in place from year to year. These circles are divided into sections and volunteers are recruited to search. They scour every woodlot, overgrown field, and patch of open water. On the CBC, every individual bird matters. The dozens of black-capped chickadees are just as important as the lone snowy owl. A bird's essence challenges its status. The common are celebrated alongside the rare. And over the years, significant patterns in avian trends have emerged. For example, through comparing CBC data with increasing temperatures, Audubon scientists found that in the last 40 years, 60% of North American bird species had moved the center of their winter ranges north by at least 30 miles. In northern Michigan, some of the luscious habitat harboring the most interesting winter bird communities is found riverside. With just limited road access, large swaths of these rich areas go untapped. So to counter this, Tripp and I have appointed ourselves the canoe mercenaries of Northwest Michigan CBCs. When count season, December 14th through January 4th, comes around, we gird ourselves with dry pants, binoculars, and decadently high caloric allotments. Then, in the name of contributing to a complete picture of regional avian use, we put in and paddle the reaches of area rivers. Rivers like the Betsy, where already today, still landbound, we've reached our first impasse. The cam straps have frozen shut, and the lighter, compromised by a leaky flask, for warmth of course, refuses to spark. Unthwarted, Trip rummages through the cab, finds a forgotten fork, and pries at the straps with the tines. Good thing I never cleaned my truck, I point out, validated. We're a couple with a couple of hard heads, and correspondingly, a couple solo canoes. Things just go better when we paddle our own boats. Yesterday, we'd taken a dry run down the Boardman. Well, perhaps a wet run would be more honest. Early on in the endeavor came a splash and an accompanying volley of expletives. But today is a new day. I decide to take the song sparrow still seeping at the put-in as a good omen. And that's a selection I'm reading. She goes on to talk about how they went down the river and actually found a record-breaking number of a certain type of bird for that area. So it's a really great story, and we love Allison's writing. We're actually going to be featuring her in a future issue, so we're excited about that. And I wanted to give a quick sneak peek to our spring issue that just came out this weekend, and we're excited because we're actually featuring contributors that are part of this panel right here, including Karen Stein, who wrote a great poem about struggling with the idea of starting a new art form, and it's bird related, so I highly recommend checking that out. And also we have a great piece, a collaboration between Joe Byer and Joyce Bailey, that is a very unique discussion on memories, loss, home, and a love for birds. And it's a really unique and wonderful piece compiled by Joe, and with wonderful contributions from Joyce Bailey. And also, one of the main reasons why I'm talking about this issue is 5% of the sales of this particular issue go straight to the Michigan Legacy Art Park. So you can support the park by purchasing an issue. So yeah, and that's it for me. Appreciate everybody having a listen, and enjoy the rest of the contributors. Thanks.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to be participating in the second annual Birds and Words. I was a part of this last year and had such a great time, and I'm so glad to be here again this year. Honestly, the title alone it combines two of my favorite things. I love birds, I love bird watching, I love nature, and I love words. I'm a writer here in Traverse City. I write for the Traverse City Ticker as a reporter. And I'm going to be reading actually two short poems today. One is by Mary Oliver, and the other is by Jennifer Sweeney, and they're both bird related. And why I like both of these poems is they have little hints of darkness in them. And I feel like that's something I really connect with, and maybe other people will after the last year, but there's also some beauty and hope in there too. So the first poem I'm going to read is called Gorgeous Thing, and it is by Mary Oliver. I do not know what gorgeous thing the bluebird keeps saying, his voice easing out of his throat, beak, body into the pink air of the early morning. I like it, whatever it is. Sometimes it seems the only thing in the world that is without dark thoughts. Sometimes it seems the only thing in the world that is without questions that can't and probably never will be answered. The only thing that is entirely content with the pink and then clear white morning, and gratefully says so. That was Mary Oliver, Gorgeous Thing. And then the next one I'm going to read is called In Flight, and it is by Jennifer Sweeney. The Himalayan legend says there are beautiful white birds that live completely in flight. They are born in the air, must learn to fly before falling, and die also in their flying. Maybe you have been born into such a life with the bottom dropping out. Maybe gravity is claiming you and you feel ghost scripted. This is for the ones who live inside the fall, the sky beneath the sky of all. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'm excited to be here this morning with the other collaborators. Thanks so much for listening.
Hi everyone, my name is Jack Senef, and I'm coming to you live from the pre-recorded past. I had a slight scheduling mix-up, so I'm unable to be here with you live via Zoom, but I am grateful to everyone involved for still letting me be a part, and I'm grateful to you for watching. Today I'd like to play for you a new song, a work in progress song, called Wing and a Prayer. Bird's eye view so weary, wilding, overwhelmed by darkness, but I'm trying, desperate as I circle wildly, searching for a way out of this valley. If there's a light here, I need it. A wing and a prayer that I can believe in. If there's a light here, I need it. A wing and a prayer that I can believe in. The river floods now unrelenting. Hard to watch the world as it's ending. Mama, help me tread this water. I'm holding on, but how much longer? If there's a way here, I need it. A wing and a prayer that I can believe in. If there's a way here, I need it. A wing and a prayer that I might believe in. All right, thank you so much. That song was called Wing and a Prayer. It's a new one. Thanks again, everyone, for watching and for being a part. My name is Jack Senef. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Fleta Brown, and I have a poem to read. I guess how you might know me is that I write a column for the Record Eagle, and which is actually today is the day of the monthly column. And sometimes I do commentaries on poetry for Michigan, for the Michigan the Michigan Writers on the Air. Anyway, This poem that I want to read was one that the Oliver Art Park decided to call together a group of poets, and we were looking at paintings and writing in a response to those paintings. And this particular painting was a painting of a chair sitting at a window, or sitting at a large window, and looking at bluebirds. And so the poem is not called Bluebirds, it's called Birdhouse. Birdhouse. Remember the year we had bluebirds there, how they came back the next year, poked their noses in and changed their minds. After that, it was all swallows. After we knew to clean out the twigs to get the house ready for renters, swallows or wrens. Oh, they might have been wrens sometimes. They might have been wrens all along, but I like the word swallow. I think they were swallows, that tiny, slender trilling down the scale. Wrens sound like their bodies, compact and insistent. It was good to have either, and their chicks, especially their chicks, evident only by the to and fro of the mothers, their fierce judgments. It was good to have that life greet us at the corner of the house. Bluebirds, we felt blessed. They let us know who was in charge. Blast, blast, chitter. Also the color, the royal robes. But the swallows, the way they swooped in and out, who doesn't love the word swooped? When they were crossing to the trees beyond our drive, remember how we'd sit in our kitchen chairs by the glass doors? It was so peaceful to watch that industry, that tiny hope carrying on, not caring a whit about us. A little joy in a year that hasn't been full of it. Thank you very much, Birds and Words and the Art Park.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Wanshura. I'm the program director for Interlochen Public Radio News. Thanks to Joe Byer for asking me to be a part of it. I was really excited. Didn't know exactly what I would contribute when I said yes, so that was kind of exciting. But thanks to Kieran Fleming and Brian Granger of the Little Traverse Conservancy, they took me on an outing last month, and it turned into a really, really fun sort of experiential audio piece. So yeah, put some headphones on if you have them around and enjoy. Thanks.
There's this elusive bird in northern Michigan. It's there if you know where to look for it. Right where fields and wetlands meet. That's its bread and butter. And you'll see it dancing at dawn or dusk when it's safer from hawks.
There he is. He is right there. He's right here. Did you hear him? Listen. There he is again. That's it right there. Can you hear that beat? Do you hear that?
This is a woodcock. It's a dull-colored bird, just a little bigger than a robin. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, whatever, who cares? That's fine. But this little bird is really cool. That's because at this rare point of the day, when the light is just right, it does this incredible dance where it shoots up into the sky like a rocket. I've never been a huge bird guy. Growing up, I was more into toads, frogs, and turtles. I had a favorite toad named Burrow, and a painted turtle I called Myrtle.
This is the cool part.
When I was younger, though, I remember my uncle taking me to look for snipes, which ironically are very similar to woodcocks. We traipsed around a small lake in Minnesota with flashlights just after dusk. It was memorable. But we found nothing, and I was kind of disappointed. Tonight, I'm hoping Kieran Fleming and Brian Granger come through. They work with the Little Traverse Conservancy. So far, they've delivered on this weird little noise I'm hearing.
It's the dumbest sound in the world, isn't it? It's just hilarious. It makes me laugh. But you know, he's just out there singing his little heart out.
He's singing his little heart out, trying to attract a mate. The sound he's making is called peenting, and he's saying something like, "I'm single and ready to mingle." I'm married now, but if I was trying to get the attention of a mate, painting would definitely not be my opening line. There's something relaxing about standing in an open field with a microphone at dusk. You start noticing everything around you, and it begins to sound louder. Frogs chirping there, seagulls passing through.
He's increasing the rapidity of his vocalization. That's an indication that he'll go.
Then all of a sudden, with a frenetic burst of energy, there he is. We finally see him, maybe 100 yards away.
Oh, he's up in the air. See him? There he goes.
There he is, right there he is. Watch this. He'll go right up in this big huge circle.
The silhouette of a woodcock, beating his wings faster and faster in a pastel-colored sky. A distinct twittering noise comes from air hitting the bird's feathers as it flies.
So he's going to keep going up until we can't even see him anymore, probably.
Up and up he goes, spiraling hundreds of feet up into the air. And then, at the apex of his flight, he starts to chirp.
Oh, he's coming down. You hear the chirping?
I soon learn that means he's coming back down. It's almost like he's tumbling down in a sort of controlled free fall.
Coming down, coming down, coming down, coming down, coming down, coming down. Boom, right there. You kidding?
Straight that way.
The whole routine is amazing to watch and listen to. I feel as if I've peeked behind the curtain of one of nature's theaters. But now I'm feeling kind of greedy. Can we get even closer?
I think what we should do is when he gets back up, if you're game for it, we'll cut straight across the field, right into the bush, right next to that field.
Because the woodcock lands so close to where he takes off, it can be pretty easy to get close to the bird, if you're sneaky. So when it takes flight for another sky dance, we make our move across the field.
Let's go.
The woodcock population has been declining for decades. Habitat loss is the main reason. There are fewer young forests and wetlands.
It's a bird that, because it migrates, it has to have a habitat up north for its mating season and brood rearing. And then it has to have a winter habitat too, and it has to have places to stop off in between. So, it's all connected. And
Kieran Fleming calls the woodcock an indicator species, a sort of thermometer that tells you how the habitat is changing. By now, our woodcock has landed again, and this time we're just about 5 yards away, hiding in some brush. Grown adults kneeling in soggy ground like we're a bunch of kids playing a game of hide and seek. In his famous book, A Sand County Almanac, conservationist Aldo Leopold dedicates an entire essay to the woodcock, titled Sky Dance. He writes, "I owned my farm for 2 years before learning that the sky dance is to be seen over my woods every evening in April and May. Since we discovered it, my family and I have been reluctant to miss even a single performance. After this evening, I think I understand why." That was awesome.
Isn't that cool? That's close. I mean, I've only done that a handful of times where I've actually been that close. I can tell just by looking at you. It's hard not to kind of get into this stuff.
I mean, you get this great giggle, this grin, this excitement thing, and it's just one piece. I heard a snipe come into the field. You guys hear that?
Yeah.
For Birds and Words, I'm Dan Wanshura at the Elizabeth Hoffman Nature Preserve in Charlevoix.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen Stein, the creative director of Hearsay Storytelling, and holy moly, do I miss the live storytelling stage. I mean, the live stage for just about everything, really. So it's such a treat to have an event like Birds and Words, and Hearsay is honored to be included again. So as Joe said, it's been quite a year, requiring a resilience beyond what's ever been asked of us collectively before. And I would say that becoming an unexpected backyard birder really helped me through it. My work was already stay at home, but I never realized until we were told we had to stay home just how much I was keeping my head down. And then one day last spring, I was getting a glass of water and I looked out the window over the kitchen sink and I squinted. What is that bright blue piece of plastic in my backyard? And then it moved. And I came to find out that it was an indigo bunting, the first I've ever seen in my entire time on Earth. Over another series of days, I also had the good luck to be at the sunroom window just as a pileated mama was demonstrating how to use the suet feeder while a juvenile watched nearby. Just how many beautiful birds and beautiful moments like these have been just nearby, and I missed it. Like everyone, I'm hopeful that we will get through this. I certainly hope that we never go through anything like this again in our lifetimes. But I'm so thankful for those flutters of joy and for that reminder that sometimes we just need to look up. So I'm so excited to introduce our next performer. When I was first thinking about starting Hearsay 8 years ago, I met Jill, who produces Story Sessions, a storytelling show in Chicago. She's always been my go-to for chatting about all the things behind the scenes for storytelling. And she's joining us today with a true story about the resilience of birds. Please welcome Jill Howe.
Thank you, Karen. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to wake up to birds and bird stories and poems. And here is my true and personal story about birds. I was not enjoying having Charles Darwin as a roommate. No, it wasn't controversy over the evolution of species. It was his incessant squawking. I would yell frequently, "Shut up, Charles Darwin!" Probably leading my neighbors to think I didn't believe in evolution. But Charles Darwin was my little lime parakeet, or budgie for some of you. In truth, I had not set out to become a bird lady. I had never had a bird before. Those small animals are my favorite kind of pets. I had a hamster named Lucky, a mouse named Kiefer Sutherland, a snapping turtle named Yertle, even a katydid named Leif Erikson. I've done them all. So with all of this small animal prep, how was it that I ended up rooming with Charles Darwin? I always dreamed of a bird to sit on my shoulder while I wrote, washed the dishes, or watched TV, all very Snow White in the forest. But it was really a horrible breakup that made me get Charles Darwin. I was sad and my apartment was achingly silent. And in my experience, small pets made me happy. I let the pet store employee pick out the one she thought was the sweetest of the bunch, a little lime-colored budgie. I named him Charles Darwin because evolution has always captivated me. I mean, birds are the closest living relatives to dinosaurs. They can fly and they are related to T-Rexes. What more do you people want? I took him to the bathroom once a day to try to train him. I was instructed via YouTube to continually bring him back to his perch I held in my hands by pressing it to his chest. I can see now that Charles Darwin probably felt a little egged on. He relentlessly dive bombed me. I think he got on my little stick perch a few times, but it was only enough for him to dash it once again. Wearing fleece winter gloves with leather padding on the fingers, I would reach in the cage to feed Charles Darwin. He would jump onto my glove to bite the leather and make sweet love to my hand. Damn it, Charles Darwin, all I wanted to do was love you, but not like that. About 4 years later, I walked over to feed him and he was dead. That's it. No sickly fanfare, no death throes. He came in as he lived, hard and fast. I would never get another bird. 2 weeks later, I sit in my, again, very quiet apartment, and I sort of missed yelling at Charles Darwin. I look over at the gorgeous decorative seafoam colored cage I scoured the internet for. I tried to temper my bird desires with trips to the Montrose Bird Sanctuary behind Montrose Beach on the Chicago lakefront. There's this perfect little forest there in the middle of everything, and birders abound. I couldn't fool myself that binoculars could replace the void in my home, so I immediately drove to my favorite pet store, The Fishbowl. I wanted finches. They are quiet and twittering and not really meant to train, thus never revealing my failings as a trainer. I walked in and over to the birds, and I saw these two finches all curled up together, and I picked them on the spot. They are orange-cheeked waxbill finches originating from West Africa. birds of the vast African grasslands. They are a beautiful dun color with a sleek maroon tail and, of course, bright orange cheeks with a bright orange waxy textured build, tiny as cotton balls when they sleep next to each other. Their calls are just soft beeps and peeps. So that's what I named them, Beep and Peep. I know these names are very similar. So for the sake of the story, I recommend you try to remember them like I do. Peep, the meek, and Beep, the brave. So Beep the brave was the more dominant of the two. There would be a little biting towards Peep the meek, or maybe just stealing a bit of coconut fiber. But overall, they got along as long as Peep stood out of Beep's way. They did have an exceedingly bad habit of kicking seed out of their cage. Some little mice friends showed up, but I wasn't interested in any more small pets. I told my rental company and they came in to lay down sticky traps. Now, I should have just said no to this in the first place, but I was busy with life, so much so that I missed my maintenance man had not fully closed one trap by the cage. I often left Beep and Peep's cage open for them to fly about. They really enjoy my orchid window and hanging on the stems with their teeny tiny feet. On this night, Beep the brave flew out, circled once, and somehow landed on that sticky trap. It took me a moment to compute what had happened. I acted swiftly as Beep's cries were becoming more urgent and more feathers were being consumed by the glue. As he emitted sounds I'd never heard from him before, I managed to free him from the trap, but at a great cost to his right foot and about half of his feathers, including his whole tail. I took him to an emergency vet who quoted me an exorbitant amount to keep him there overnight in a warm oxygen box. But what could possibly be done for this minuscule bird? I was surprised he hadn't died of shock right there. I didn't have the budget for my budgie, so we went home and I made him in as warm and safe as possible. I pulled the rolling radiator over in front of the cage, covered the bottom of the cage with soft blankets and towels, and then covered them and prayed. Right away, Peep the meek started to change. The now less dominant finch became the lead. Peep preened Beep. Peep watched as Beep began to climb again. Peep actually helped Beep drop his toes. Yeah, drop his toes. That's what the vet told me. They turned black and fell off within 2 weeks. That was it. He still had a clinging claw in the back, and over the weeks, he was back on the perch, but otherwise fine. He just adapted. A few months after the accident, Peep did the most amazing thing. Laid eggs. You cannot tell the sex of a finch without a blood test, so babies were an initial concern, being that I wanted baby finches because I have no small pet self-control. Since the initial laying of these eggs, none have hatched, no matter how many nests and nesting materials I've tried. And I actually, since it's a Zoom show and we can do this, but look at these little tiny little eggs. They're like the cutest thing you've ever seen. I know, I keep them. I told you guys, I've turned into a bird lady. So I've gone so full on bird lady that I am in a Finches Only Facebook group. Here, from a group of 15,000 other bird freaks, I can get any question answered within 3 minutes. Fertilization never seems to occur, I'll agree. And I always speculate wistfully that I have a pair of sapphic finches doomed to an empty nest. A year later, Beep, Peep, and I, as you can see back there, are doing okay. We spent a lot of time together this last year. Right, guys? Little Peep. We've spent a lot of time together and I get to see what they're like all day. I adore their little warm water baths and the twittering of their songs as I put bird music on in the background. Charles Darwin, the man, said, "It is not the strongest of the species, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change." I am neither the strongest nor the most intelligent of my species, but I do know this. As seasons in my own life pass, I know I am adaptable and will survive, even if I lose a toe or a boyfriend. So Next time you see a little sparrow, remember that baby dinosaur can teach you a thing or two. Thanks so much. Have a good rest of your morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joyce Harrington Bailey, and I began working for the fiction writer, poet, and journalist, screenwriter Jim Harrison back in August of 1979. So I am a seasoned participant in Jim's work. He hand wrote, I typed. People would ask what my job was, and I think the thing that I came down to is Jim put a pen to paper and I did the rest. And that's probably pretty fair. My job was to keep Jim, the world at bay, so that he could be the person that he most loved, which was writing and being out in nature. Jim was a great birder, as was his wife, Linda. And although over my career with Jim, he passed away and she passed away in 2015 and Jim in 2016. And I will retire from my career with Jim in the next few months. But I have had the opportunity in the last 5 years to become a birder myself. So my house is in a beautiful spot and I have many favored bird friends and have really enjoyed and seen out what their deep love and connection to the bird world. So one of the last gifts that Jim gave me was this book, which seems very appropriate, and it's on my coffee table, and it's something that I refer to all the time. I have a pair of pileated woodpeckers who graced me with a little fledgling last spring, and they're still back, and that's really fun to see them. So without more to say, let me let Jim and his voice stand alone. He produced 14 plus books of poetry, and we have some new books that are coming out, which are compilations of his work. Copper Canyon Press is doing just an incredible job. Go to their website and see. And we have a program called Heart's Work, where we've produced and published more of his work. And so forthcoming this fall, you'll see yet another book. So I am going to read one of Jim's poems. He wrote dozens and dozens of poems with about birds. And this final one is called Birds Again. A secret came a week ago, though I already knew it just beyond the bruised lips of consciousness. The very alive souls of 3,500 dead birds are harbored in my body. It's not uncomfortable. I'm only temporary habitat for these not quite weightless creatures. I offered a wordless invitation, and now they're roosting within me, recalling how I watched them at night in fall and spring, passing across Earth's moons. Little clouds of black confetti, chattering and singing on their way north or south. Now in my dreams, I see from the air the rumpled green and beige, the watery face of Earth, as if they're carrying me rather than me carrying them. Next winter, I'll release them near the estuary west of Alvarado and south of Veracruz. I can see them perching on undiscovered Olmec heads. We'll say goodbye, and I'll return my dreams to Earth. Thank you for this great program. Jim would be thrilled to know literature, poetry, and the natural world is alive in northern Michigan. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for this year's Birds and Words virtual event. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you know anyone else you think might enjoy this event as much as you did, we hope you'll share the video on social media. Also, don't forget the Michigan Legacy Art Park is open every day and excited to see you in your next visit. Take care and have a wonderful day.
Bird's eye view so weary, wilding, overwhelmed by darkness, but I'm trying, desperate as I circle wildly, searching for a way out of this valley. If there's a way here, I need it. A wing and a prayer that I can believe in. If there's a way here, I need it. A wing and a prayer that I can believe in. The river floods now unrelenting. Hard to watch the world as it's ending. Mama, help me tread